as we said, they did prior to the meeting. They had their normal Wednesday meeting. They held a moment of silence. They prayed for the 3 victims killed in the school bus crash. In honor of Kimberly Riddle, Zakiya Burns, and Soraya Glasper. They then sat down and had their meeting. Shortly after the board meeting, school leaders attended a vigil over at Church Street United Methodist Church with the rest of the community. But during Wednesday night's meeting, they voted to move forward with the IB program, the International Baccalaureate program at Bearden Middle School. It's going to startup costs are around $780,000, and that's where some of the issues have come up, how they're going to fund that program. And apparently they said students who aren't zoned at Bearden would be able to transfer to the school to join the program. So again, the IB program includes rigorous curriculum aimed at helping students prepare early for college. And they voted 3-5 to go ahead and start the IB program. One board member did not vote. So it has passed. They're going to move forward with it. I'm sure that's not the end. You're going to hear a lot more discussion as to how it's going to be funded and things like that. And again, it's just one of those things where you have to really watch what's going on. Just pay attention. Here's the interesting thing with last night's meeting. Lauren Hobson got up and spoke about SAT-10 testing and about the continuation of some sort of testing program. She explained it very, I listened to it a couple times. She was very detailed in how she explained everything. It made a lot of sense. Actually, we'll go ahead and listen to some of Lauren's comments here.
My main purpose in speaking to you tonight is to give you some more information about the standardized testing of our K-2 students. Strangely, I still feel the need to do this because even though the SAT-10 was voted down last month, it is clear to me that some of you still don't get the full picture. That is okay, though, because just like children, adults don't all learn at the same pace. The first issue I would like to address is the perception that some of you have that without SAT-10, our K-2 students are not being assessed at all. This idea is frankly ridiculous. We do comprehension assessments on a weekly basis, are free to give the STAR assessment as much as we deem necessary, and we listen to our students read every day. Although I'm sure many parents appreciate the apology about some comments made on TV last week, to state that without the SAT-10 we will have no idea how our students are doing until the beginning of 4th grade is not misspeaking, but an irresponsible statement which belittles the abilities and expertise of our finest and most experienced teachers. Having said that, it is extremely important to understand that the SAT-10 or any other norm reference test that the board may recommend to replace it with is that a norm reference test. That means it doesn't really tell us if a child is proficient in their skills or not. It merely compares them to other students across the nation. Theoretically, all the children could be doing a bang-up job, but if your child scores in the 25th percentile, you may be unnecessarily concerned. Conversely, all children could be struggling across the country, but if a child scores in the 95th percentile, you may have a false sense of security about their abilities. Now, it's likely that neither of these scenarios is true, but it is important to note that we have no way of knowing which school systems have a curriculum more or less aligned to the test due to the inconsistent administration of Common Core standards state by state. Replacing the SAT-10 with a similar test will not change the reality that we may be comparing apples to oranges. I also find it curious that once the SAT-10 was voted down, an issue was made out of K-2 teachers having to use school-wide scores for their evaluations. This was painted as a negative thing. So I ask you, if this is not okay for them, why is it acceptable for hundreds of other teachers across the county? I'll answer that question for you. It simply is not. And this board should be lobbying the state to end the use of this kind of data for teacher evaluations. I also continue to take issue with the anecdotal stories about how much certain kids like test day and how if we just made it like a field day, everything would be okay. As a teacher who has experienced many field days, I can only wonder how any test given in that kind of environment can be reliable. I also think refusing to acknowledge the anxiety of other students goes against our very mission of excellence for every child. My own son is one who will simultaneously raise the system's achievement scores and completely kill the growth scores of his teacher. But if I approach testing of all students based on my son's experience, I would not deserve to have a job as an educator. Our testing regimen must be as differentiated as you require our instruction to be. A standardized test by its very nature makes that impossible. The SAT-10 does not need to be replaced with any non-mandated standardized test to judge our students' abilities. It certainly does not need to be replaced for the purposes of teacher evaluations. 2 weeks ago, I was privileged and honored to see renowned public education advocate and historian Diane Ravitch speak at an event in Nashville. She recounted an instance after No Child Left Behind was instituted in which she asked then Secretary of Education Lamar Alexander if he really thought that all children would be able to read on grade level by 2014. He said, "No, Diane, but it's good to have goals." Diane's response to that sentiment 2 weeks ago in Nashville was, "But firing teachers for not meeting a goal that no one believes is attainable is criminal." Think carefully about that before you advocate for replacing the SAT-10. Thank you.
So that was Lauren Hobson's comments last night. We're going to take a quick break. When we get back, though, we're going to play some comments that were later on in the meeting that were, well, they're interesting to say the least. Hey, did we get a winner? Frank,
we did.
Congratulations, Frank. Frank's got himself a copy of Glenn Beck's new book, Dreamers and Deceivers. Merry Christmas, Frank. There you go. Brandon, no, he doesn't. There you go, Brandon. Just a little mess between me and Brandon there. Puff says if seatbelts would have been on some of the seats, more children would have died because they would have been trapped on the side that was hit. Can't tell you how I know, but it's a fact. Ann says the envelope that kids sit in the bus is all metal. Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, we don't, we've talked about this a couple times before and touched on it, but we're going to bring somebody on to be able to explain it. This is how it works. This is the theory behind it, and this is the science behind this compartmentalization, this envelope that they're in, and why you wouldn't want to have seatbelts on a bus. BDB asking, when did Congress ratify the treaty? Here's the thing, okay? It was signed by the U.S. The UN Arms Treaty was signed by the U.S. September 2013, September 25th, 2013, I think, or 24th. But it was signed last year by the U.S. and it will go into effect. It will go into force on the 24th of December. So there you go. There you go. How the effect of what it's going to have in the U.S., we're just going to have to wait till they sign the treaty and find out how it's enforced. Thank you, Nancy. I don't know. It's a little scary. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Really quickly, before we go, we've got to play the other comments from last night's Board of Education meeting. This is Lynne Fugate later on in the meeting last night.
We had said at one point we would begin responding to some of the things that were said in public forum. First of all, to the special ed parents, we hear you. I've talked to Dr. McIntyre. I would like for the board to have a mid-month workshop on exactly what are these special ed laws, exactly what's going on. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. No, please don't. No, it's not the first time you've been heard. Please let me respond. This board has been attacked for over a year as though they don't give a darn and they don't care. We have been insulted from the floor, meeting after meeting after meeting. And when I was chair of the board, I took it. I'm not going to take it anymore. If you want respect, give some. Don't patronize and talk down to us like we are idiots when you are trying to make your point. Please don't speak to me the way you would not want your students to speak to you. We have gone through hell in this community last year, and yesterday was unspeakable. And to come in here today and be insulted and spoken to as though we are hard-hearted people that don't care just isn't fair and it's not helpful. We are your representatives. We are trying to do the right thing for this community. We have laws that we have to adhere to. We are responsible for educating every child. And contrary to what you think, we are trying. Is it perfect? No, but we are trying. And when I hear teachers talk about testing, I get that. But there's a flip side to that. The old way didn't work for my child. The teacher might have known he wasn't able to read, but nobody else did. She kept that to herself. There were no assessments. No one in the school knew it. And until he got to second grade, I didn't know it. So there are two sides to every issue. Let's just try to work it out and quit this adversarial relationship. We are all here because we're trying to do the right thing for students and families of this community. I didn't run for any other reason. You can disagree with me, but please don't insult me and assume I am a bitch. Thank you.
Okay, so that was Lynne Fugate, former chairperson for the Board of Education. First of all, okay, she was obviously very upset, shaking to the point of being upset. People applauded to thank her, special ed parents applauding to thank her for getting to actually speak to the, to have the McIntyre take a look at things. Then she got on to them for that. So they were thanking her, and yes, she got upset. A couple of things. For you to compare what the board has gone through the past year to anything that happened on Tuesday is despicable. Okay?
That's unspeakable.
That is unspeakable. That is ridiculous. The board, prior to this new board sitting there, put themselves into every situation they were in. And then for you to demand that people respect you by giving respect and not talk to you like idiots, perhaps, I don't know if you were talking to the people out there, if you were talking to the board, because for years, that's the way the board dealt with everybody. You talked down to this community. You talked down to people. You treated people without respect. You ran roughshod over everything. Just rubber stamping things at will and ignoring the will of anybody but you and the board members and the superintendent. And if you have a child that you don't know your child can't read until second grade, like the guy sitting here in front of me who was a teacher at one point, pointing out, did you ever stop and read with your kid? Did you ever stop and read with your kid? Whose fault is that? Anything that board has done up to this point was created by that board. And for you to take umbrage against everyone, perhaps you should do what we tell everybody else. Take a big, big, deep breath and go take a look in the mirror. Start the change there, and maybe you might see some change elsewhere. Wow. Matt, sorry we weren't able to get to your phone call today. We're going to talk that UN treaty tomorrow morning, so call in tomorrow. We'll talk about that.